running late.
Good evening. It's 6:30. I'm going to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for July 19th, 2022. We do have a quorum present. The first item on the agenda is to consider the minutes of the July 5th. Oh, okay. Well, I can wait one more second for Ann. Sorry. I looked up, but didn't see it was there. Okay, we are called to order. The first item on the agenda is consider the minutes of the July 5th, 2022 joint meeting with the Overlay District Board. If there are no additions or corrections, may I have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Motion is by Karen.
Second.
Second by Alvin. Vote now. Motion passes 6-0. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing. This is for a final plat of Castle Hills Golf Course Edition containing 11 residential lots and 2 non-residential lots on 97.93 acres out of the W.J. Bonner Survey, Abstract 343, the B.F. Draper Survey, Abstract 122, the Peyton Splain Survey, and Abstract 1218, and the J.T. Sherrod Survey, Abstract 1691. It is zoned Planned Development Estate Townhomes and Planned Development Single Family Residential. Located on the south side of Lady of the Lake Boulevard and north side of the King Arthur Boulevard with one associated variance, being a replat of Castle Hills Golf Course, Lot 4R, Block A, and Castle Hills Golf Course, Lot 22A1, Block A.
Good evening, Commissioners. So I wanted to first make a point of clarification. It was an error in staff's reading of the Plan Development Ordinance from when we gave Castle Hills its initial zoning after annexation, that a variance would be required for this property. There is no variance required, so it is simply a residential replat. And staff has identified several deficiencies that were listed in the staff memo about easement widths and so forth that need to be corrected. I do want to clarify that this public hearing is required because it was zoned residential and is being replatted per state ordinances. There is no zone change being requested here. All of the zoning standards were established back in January after the initial annexation of Castle Hills when the Plan Development Ordinance for Castle Hills was adopted. So this area where these 11 new residential units are proposed is zoned estate townhouse or Plan Development Estate Townhouse, and so that is an allowed and permissible use. So being as this is a plat, it's a ministerial action, and if the plat does meet all of our codes and ordinances, we do have to, by state ordinance, approve the plat. So again, staff has listed all the deficiencies that we found based on our ordinance, and our recommendation for you tonight is our recommendation that comes forward with most final plats, which is to disapprove based on the deficiencies that are listed, delegate to staff the authority to approve once those deficiencies have been corrected, and bring back to the chair for signature. We have received 2 letters, which I did distribute and put at your desks this evening from 2 property owners that were concerned about the development, Mrs. Nelicia Howard and also Teresa Grunstrom. And there were concerns mentioned about access onto Lady of the Lake and that being dangerous, aesthetics, altering the natural landscape, and then also the other concern was primarily related to aesthetics. So I did want to just address those concerns quickly. So in regards to the safety issue, they will not be having individual driveways out onto Lady of the Lake Boulevard. They will have a shared access slip street that runs parallel to Lady of the Lake Boulevard, so that cars will not have to back out onto Lady of the Lake Boulevard. It'll be kind of like a circular drive, one that will serve 3 lots and one that will serve the remaining 8 lots. Because we did note that there is a lot of topography and there is some curvature there. Regarding the natural landscape, there is grading work being proposed, and there will be retaining walls. The drainage will be reviewed by staff as part of the engineering that's being reviewed. In terms of aesthetics, this is all being developed by Bright, who is the original developer for Castle Hills. They do have an architectural review process that is also established within the PD for commercial structures, but for the residential, it will be primarily reviewed by their architectural review committee.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions for staff at this point before I open the public hearing? Okay. You'll have a chance later also to voice any opinions. Okay, at this time, I am going to open the public hearing. I don't know how many of you are here to speak on this particular item, but we should probably hold our comments to 3 to 5 minutes if possible. And if you notice that there are a lot of ones that are echoing the same, perhaps you elect one person to come forward to speak. That is strictly up to you, but we would like to hold to the 3 to 5 minutes per comment. So anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward, sign in, state your name, and we'll be happy to hear from you.
Hello, Joshua Howland. I live basically right across from where these are going to happen. So I think the address part of the driveway onto Lady of the Lake, that's a really busy street for almost everybody for ingress and egress out of the main village into Castle Hills. So this little area where they're going to put groups, I don't think is sufficient to address the traffic flow into and out of those townhomes. Additionally, where are the people going to park that come to visit on that? So they're going to clog up that piece as well. If you've been into Castle Hills during the 4th of July, you can see that that street is the main thoroughfare for all of that to happen. Adding more congestion there is just going to be a nightmare. Aesthetics, I mean, sure, the Bright family has the architectural review committee, so they're going to govern themselves with their own style. Building 3-story condos facing directly into the backyards of all the people there. You can't tell me that that's going to be aesthetically pleasing. And I guess most of all, those houses that were built there and the people who purchased them, myself included, purchased them because of the natural vista and the overlook into the, I guess, what will eventually be massive neighborhoods. You can't tell me that that won't affect our property values. So, you know, I just want to speak for myself and my neighbors and say that we're almost entirely opposed to allowing this to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak on this item? Okay, having no one come forward, I will go ahead now and close the public hearing. Commissioners, any discussion? I do understand what Mr. Howland was saying about his property and the traffic and the aesthetics. I guess it can happen to all of us that we buy or build somewhere and we are never guaranteed that anything won't change, unfortunately. It's part of the pain of growth, I suppose. I do think that the 3-story condos, if they are allowed through your review board, that they will probably go on ahead because of the way the ordinance reads. If you would like to discuss anything further with the staff on how you might address your concerns, then I think that that would be in your best interest to do that. Anything else? Anybody? Okay.
Chairman Mixa, I just
Yes.
want to clarify one point about the comment about a three-story condo. Condos, multiple stories were proposed at one time several years ago, but the developer is not developing that style of construction at this site. These will be single-family detached homes.
Okay.
And a very good example of what is envisioned would be the golf villas that have been added just to the west of this site,
Okay.
kind of on the fringes of the golf course. I think that would be a very good example of what to expect as far as the style of housing that is envisioned by Bright Realty.
That's a very good point, because I think that might possibly make a difference in how people are viewing this, that they're not having people overlooking onto their properties. Okay, all right. Michelle, did you have something to add?
I was just going to mention again that these were detached, single-family residences and
Okay.
not condos.
Okay, all right. So at this time, if there are no more discussions or concerns from the commission, may I have a motion, please? Oh, I know I did close the hearing. Wait a second. I did close the hearing, yes. Can I have a motion, please?
I move to disapprove the final plat for Castle Hills Golf Course for the deficiencies listed above and delegate to staff the authority to approve once deficiencies are corrected and bring back to the chair for signature.
Motion is by Aram.
Second.
Second is by Robert. Vote now.
Apologies, give me just one moment here.
Okay, vote now. Motion passes 6-0.
Chairman Mix, I just want to clarify that this is the final action by the P&Z on this item, and this item will not go forward to the City Council since this is the final action.
Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is also a public hearing. This is in consideration of a zone change request from residential single-family 7.5 district to medical district on approximately 2.045 acres, legally described as Lot 23, Block C, Timber Creek Estate, Section 3, located at 1727 South Edmonds Lane, as requested by Rob Baldwin on behalf of the Bethel Baptist Church of Texas, the property owner.
Good evening, Commissioners. I just want to start off by noting that the initial plat that was included in the packet that was sent out was the incorrect one. It has since been updated and is in the presentation we have today. The subject property we're looking at today is 1727 South Edmonds, which is currently zoned R7.5, residential 7.5. Currently contains a church, and the applicant is proposing to rezone it to medical district. Furthermore, I apologize, they look to redevelop it into a independent senior living community. The Timber Creek Estates neighborhood adjoins it to the northeast, and it also fronts Edmonds Lane. Along Edmonds Lane, it has a mix of residential and commercial uses or zoning districts. So this zone change does kind of fit that use. Also, the use type that they're looking for is a residential, so it fits that. Also fits the commercial along Edmonds. If rezoned, any permissible use in the medical district would be allowed. Other uses such as hospitals or a rehabilitation center would be allowed, but the lot does not have the characteristics that would fit that. Furthermore, the height requirement allowed for the lot is bound by the residential zoning as it's 150 feet within it. So there's only a small portion of the lot that would allow it and to develop within that goes outside the setbacks. So developing there isn't ideal for those uses that are not ideal near the residential neighborhood. Furthermore, this use does fit the Lewisville 2025 vision plan, which designates this area as a diverse and thriving neighborhood. A zone change to the MD zoning district supports this goal by following two objectives of the vision plan: expanding housing options for people of all ages, and partnering with the private sector and nonprofits to make essential resources and services available within accessible distance of neighborhoods. With that, our recommendation is as follows: to approve the zone change request. If you all have any questions for me, please let me know.
Any questions?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, my apologies. I meant to be skipping through it. So this is the proposed elevations that they've submitted. They're subject to change if submitted through the approval process.
Okay.
And here's the site plan that they've submitted as well.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff, commissioners? No? Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I will open the public hearing on this item. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward, state your name, and sign in, please.
Good evening, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rob Baldwin. I was at 3904 Elm Street, Suite B in Dallas, and I'm the applicant in this request. As staff said, we're proposing an age-restricted and income-restricted senior living facility on this site. We're asking for a rezoning to an MD district. We think this is a reasonable request. The staff says it does comply with the comprehensive plan. As you can see from the site plan, we're pushing the building, which is 2 stories, closest to Edmond Street as possible. We have an approximately 50 to 55-foot setback from our property line to our building. And then there's an alley, and then the neighbors start behind us on that side. The main entrance is on my left, on the north side of Edmonds. The driveway on the south is for emergency access only. We meet all the requirements of the MD district. Again, we think this is a good use. The buildings will be made all out of brick, stone, and some cementous fiberboard panels in the details in the top, but most of it will be brick and stone. I've done several jobs with this client, and they're a very good builder. City Council's looked at this and has granted it tax credits, and we think the size and scale is appropriate at this location, and we hope you can support it. Both myself and Chris Applequist is here tonight to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Mr. Baldwin?
What's that building currently on this?
I'm sorry?
What sits on there currently? What is that?
Zoning's R75.
There's a church, the
It's
Bethel
a
Baptist
church,
Church.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's the Bethel Baptist Church. It's kind of like a story and a half beige building.
And Mary Ellen, I think I had some cards that I handed to you earlier on this one of
Yes,
people
I
that
do
wanted to
have
speak.
these. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I do have cards here. I can either read your names off, or you can, since you filled one out, you can come forward, please. Mr. Jersak? Or Miss Stacy? Sorry, I should put my glasses back on.
My name is Stacy Jerzak. I'm at 773 Hummingbird Circle. I'm actually on the other side of Bel Air. However, I do take Edmonds quite often. And I guess to start with, this being a church facility is a big difference between adding, 50-something beds, 2-story, into a community that backs right up to, 2-story homes. My mother's currently in a rehab facility, which is twice the size, and they're already struggling with parking for staff. So my concern is on top of residents in there, you're going to be having parking for staff. I don't know, I reached out to the city on next door to see how many people would be required to run this facility. It does not look like a large enough piece of property to raise up, push back, and then have a big change for residents behind it, in particular with all the activity. We're talking about lights being added. There's going to be night activity. I have a big concern about garbage. We do walk our dogs in the neighborhood. We already have some challenges seeing needles and things as we walk along. So here's a medical facility here. If you're not aware, there are needles in our neighborhood being left in certain places. So there's already a concern about, I understand this is for age restriction, or there's limitations for who can stay there. But for the people who are going to be backing up to this, and me personally, now have the LISD gas station across from my street with night lights and a big gallon to look at every time I look around. This would not be something going from a church property to a medical facility, which is not guaranteed 100%, is it? I don't know. Similar to Family Dollar, that was supposed to be raised. It's still an empty facility, so there's no guarantee for these people who back up to this. Are they going to be getting the best out of this property from the builder? And it's a big change from the church. So I support anybody from that neighborhood here to ask the city to not rezone this to this property. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah Glenn LaFleur.
Good evening, y'all. My name is Glenn LaFerrier. I live at 820 Blue Oak Drive, which if you look at that site map, that's one of them that's on the alley. Currently, I do back up to the church, and there is one entry point above the church that on church days when the kids are out there playing, they can see directly into my backyard. So right now, if that's only 1.5 stories high, then this facility being 2 stories is definitely going to peer into everybody who is going to be on that north-facing side. It's clear from the site plan, too, that there will be north-facing and east-facing, so my neighbors on Blue Ridge will get the same event from their perspective as well. And then based on the elevation, I'm sorry, I've got a couple of, the elevation one, that it looked as if there's going to be balconies on those, I would assume on the north and east side for the people who are in that second floor. That will look directly into my backyard. Even though in the last 5 years I've put up an 8-foot fence, I also put out a back porch back there. Just replaced my windows in June, and we weren't going to do window treatments in the back because of the 8-foot fence. So there was one of my major concerns, is just people being able to basically look directly into my house. Another concern, I will echo what the other neighbors said, is the noise. Right now, and when I moved in 10 years ago, I did know there was a church behind there. I hear cars on Wednesday evening and Sunday, and that's it. And I do believe that there will be a very big difference between having the 24/7 traffic in and out of that facility that does back up directly to my house. Lighting is also an issue. If there's going to be a parking lot, and this is going to be a 55 and up community, I would assume they'd want their parking facilities well lighted. So that's definitely an issue. The only lighting right now in that parking lot are lights that are attached to the church. At one point in time, about 2 years ago, when Bethel Baptist took over, because it was originally a Church of Christ church, at one point in time, they replaced one lighting unit, and it shone directly into our backyard, and we did have to go through Lewisville codes for that. Off the top of my head, I believe those are my major oppositions to the rezoning. So I appreciate y'all's time. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Almeida Trubiarte, and I live on Blue Ridge, which my driveway, backyard, right up against the thing. Same thing, a lot of the, I've lived there for 30 years. We bought that home based on the way it is. But again, I don't want the lights, the noise. We sit in our backyard in the evening on the patio, quiet. My grandchildren live with me. I'm loading and unloading grandchildren in the driveway. But one thing, now that I see that up there, is they're taking away parking spaces. Right now, we live the two houses directly behind it. People park all up and down our street on Blue Ridge and Red Oak down. They're walking between our houses. In fact, we had a path made to where we had put grass. I mean, that's how bad and they're taking spaces. And this is a facility that's going to have traffic. This was just on Sunday mornings, sometimes Sunday. They have added some parking spaces since the last couple of years, but there's still some foot traffic between the houses because of parking. So when you go put something like this, where are they going to park? You've got everything they've said with the lighting, the noise. It's not going to be peaceful. Sit out in the morning and have a nice cup of coffee and stuff. But right now, the new thing I'm looking at is because I have foot traffic through my yard because the parking is down Blue Ridge. And now it's not as bad. Like I said, they have added some spaces, but they're taking them back away.
Okay.
And they're losing all the space they had between the church building and up to Edmonds is grass, but they fill that totally right now with parking. And they look like they got maybe 8 parking spaces there, So that's a big concern. Are we going to start getting the foot traffic in our yard again, tearing our yard up? We've put 2 yards on that side, and we gave up. But, so I'm opposed to it. I don't want it. I've been there all these years. I don't want the noise. I don't want the lights in my backyard. Like I said, this is a solid building that has no windows on our side. So it's, it's not invading our privacy. But now you're talking about 2 stories, balconies and all that, which will be with me, grandchildren, and my husband, whoever we're out there with. But like I said, foot traffic through people's houses have been a problem.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Hello, thank you for your time. I'm Chris Applequist with Generation Housing Partners. Address is 17440 Dallas Parkway, Dallas, Texas. So I think it's important to give a little bit of context and some background on the development. So we started working on this in mid to late 2021, reached out to planning, started talking to them specifically about this site. And initially we were looking at 3 stories. That's what we typically do. 3 stories makes a lot more sense. Financially, after some conversations, 2 stories seemed to be something that'd be much more acceptable. Really trying to hedge off, opposition or issues that we would run into with the neighborhood. So we reduced it to 2 stories. Also, in terms of the exterior materials, I think you saw the elevations. That is what we're going to build. We went back and forth in terms of the brick and stone and those percentages and where they'd be. Also, the orientation of the building and where it's located, we slid that closer to Edmonds Lane. And we're really at just 2 stories, and a lot of that lends itself to if you were to build single-family homes on this tract right now, you could just build a 2-story house, and you could build it right next to your neighbor. We're more than 150 feet away. We exceed all the requirements. In terms of parking, the average age for our folks is around 73, 74. A lot of them are widowers. They don't drive anymore. A lot of times their family told them they can't drive anymore, and that's why they're here. So we offer transportation help, things like that. We also offer some health screening classes. We do some health and wellness classes, and then a lot of social gatherings. And so that's just a little bit of background how we got to where we are today. Also, we had a public meeting, and we sent out letters to all of the adjacent homeowners. That was February 17th, and we had it at the church. And we had the large displays that showed, exactly what you have here. We had handouts, and no one showed up. It was basically us and staff and the pastor. And we're fine with having, continuing those conversations with some of these folks to explain exactly what it is. One other thing to note, lighting, that's a concern, and that's a very good point. It's a very valid point. Typically, we have to do a photovoltaic study, which basically says you can't have light pollution on your neighbors. Your lights, a lot of times, are sconces that face up and down, and your light just goes straight up and straight down. You can't have a large wall pack that just lights up your neighbor. You can't do that. And so that's, that's something that we're addressed through, planning and permitting, things like that. Also, the parking issue, that's also done through permitting. That whole process will exceed all those requirements. And then also just in terms of the design of what this actually is, it's a Class A community. The community amenities, we have high-speed Wi-Fi, the community room, a fitness center, usually have a pool, and then an arts and crafts room, and then a health screening room. And then in terms of unit amenities, granite countertops, we also have stainless steel appliances, 9-foot ceilings, the faux wood flooring. We also design these a lot of times for aging in place, so it's ADA compatible or already ADA designed. And so I'm here for any questions if you have them.
What is your parking ratio? Just, let's say, because one of our speakers was talking about just the parking for staff. What is your ratio for people who will be on staff?
That's a good question. I know it's broken up between per unit, and then in terms of the community space, I would need to look at the site plan. We basically gave the MD zoning requirements to the architect and just said to meet the parking requirements. I think it's normally around 1.5 per unit, but. 1.2. Okay, 1.2.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Stephen Berthold. I live on Blue Oak Drive. My house faces south toward this proposal. I'm wondering, I've lived there for 35 years, so I'm very familiar with the size of this plot. And I'm wondering how many units are proposed?
48.
48 units, and what's the square footage on each unit? Are they tiny?
That I don't know.
Okay, 48 units. Okay. I'm having a hard time visualizing. I'd like to see that other graphic that you showed earlier that was the finished product, I guess. Okay, thank you. Wow, it's pretty. I just can't imagine that it's not very tight for that piece of property. Thank you.
Can I just say, I'd like to, and I'm speaking for several of us, when he said the letters have been sent out, this is the first notice I have, several of my neighbors, and I think a couple others now have ever heard on this situation.
Okay.
So when he says he's the only one that showed up, we didn't get the letters. I
Okay.
know my neighbor hasn't on either side. This
Okay.
was the first thing.
Okay, well, maybe we can remedy that. Certainly, I think it would be a good idea to possibly try to have another neighborhood meeting and see what you can work out with the neighbors that you will have going forward, if you are going forward.
Hi, my name is Julie Patrick, and I live at 812 Blue Oak Drive. My only question about this, in the sense of the zoning, is that just up the road on Edmonds, I don't know exactly what the address is, there used to be a home for people who needed assistance. And it was on the west side of Edmonds. And so that, I believe, would still be zoned for medical because that building used to be there and it was torn down. And so why, when they have that option, would they need to go into this small space for this? Other than, I understand property is available for sale and not for sale, but there is a zoned area just up the road, across from a church next to the West Baptist Church, that is already probably zoned for medical.
Chairman Mixa, I just looked up that site on the city's interactive maps, and ironically, that site was bought by Bethel Baptist Church, where they are developing a new site.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Lisa?
They're relocating the church to that, up the road, that site, next to
Where the former nursing
where the
home,
former nursing home used to
it
be.
was a very old nursing home that I believe was
It's
built.
gated right now, and,
Correct, that was
Okay.
tore down.
so that's going to be the new Bethel Baptist Church.
They are going through the development process currently,
Thank you.
and they own that property. That property, and then there's a building that sits behind the former nursing home. They own both those properties.
Confirm for me, please, this is independent living, correct?
Correct. This is independent living, so it is age restricted, and they are, based on the medical district zoning, required to provide certain on-site services, which they will do, but it is independent senior living.
Thank you.
And the 48 units are all going to be the same floor plan and same size? They're going to be different options?
I would refer that to the developer, I'm not sure.
One bedroom and a two-bedroom.
Yes, ma'am. So 48 units, 24 will be one bedroom, and then the other 24 will be two bedroom. Our one-bedroom units are approximately 725 square feet. The two-bedroom units are between 945 square feet and 1,014 square feet.
May I speak again?
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to also put on the record that all the houses on Blue Oak and Blue Ridge, I know the city code is different, but they are all ranch houses. The only houses in our community that have a second story are some of the newer developments down, probably about just a half mile down the street, and the only ones in that immediate vicinity that have a second story are the ones that have added something over a garage or something like that. Okay, so I know every single house on Blue Oak Drive where I live, where they'll be peering right directly into my backyard. Okay, there's not a single two-story house right there or on Blue Ridge. I just wanted to add that in there.
Okay, thank you.
Something mentioned about an earlier notification? Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with this whole deal. Although I've been a 35-year resident, I've never really had a problem before, so. Someone mentioned, one of the gentlemen mentioned that there had been a preliminary notification to neighbors about this. I never got anything. And like I said, I'm at 829 Blue Oak for 35 years.
One of the other ladies mentioned that as well.
I'm sorry?
Said one of the other ladies mentioned
Oh,
that
oh,
as
okay,
well.
I'm
So I believe that they may try to rectify that.
Okay, great. Thanks again.
Sure. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item, please? Okay, having no one else come forward, I will now close the public hearing. Can I talk? Commissioners, are there any questions or discussions about this item? I would like to point out that whatever vote we take tonight is just a recommendation to council. So you will have another opportunity when this comes before council to state your concerns again as well, however this vote comes tonight. We only refer it up to council. So a yay vote or an aye vote from us tonight will only move it to council. Okay, commissioners, if there are no questions or discussions, may I have a motion, please?
Do a motion to approve.
Motion by Robert,
Second.
second by Alvin. Please vote now. Motion passes 6-0. Again, this will go before the city council.
Yes, Chairman Mixa, this item will appear before the city council on Monday, August the 15th, 2022, at 7:00 p.m. for a second public hearing and a final decision.
Okay, so you all got that. If you would like to speak to council on this item, be at that meeting, and you can do so. Final item on the agenda tonight is the adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Aram,
Second.
second by Karen.
Take a voice.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone, for coming tonight.
Thank you. We appreciate you guys coming.